I was 17 years old. They were taking 18 years old and above. I faked an ID. I made myself an 18-year-old, and I went in. I was dying to go in, and we got shipped to northern of Iraq in a base called Karkoush. It's near the mountains between the borders of Iraq and Iran. And there was an American company called MPRI that actually took the contract to train the first division of the Iraqi military. And we went there. We got there. And the second shipment was supposed to follow us within a week from the recruiting center, end up getting hit by a car bomb. And a lot of them didn't make it. So you made it. We kind of waited before we started the training for the second shipment. And then we were told the second shipment, most of them were dead. And there's no one coming. And we started our training officially. And this company, MPRI, have really done their job to the extent that when we got out of the bus and they saw what most of us look like, most of us are very skinny. You can see our bones because we were hungry for years. None of us were able to afford to eat meat. Most of us were not fed well. Most of us were extremely small, skinny, and out of shape and had no muscle tone. And that's what in the picture. And if I show you the picture of all the soldiers that was around back then, not one person was overweight, or everybody was just going through hell. And what they did, the American company, the trainers were actually, majority of them were Vietnam veterans. And the American company came in and said, hey, we need to contract with the best restaurant in Iraq. And they brought actually a five-star restaurant. And they contracted with that place to cater food for the training, the training for the basic camp, the basic training for the 3 months. And it was our first time. We walked into the DFAC on the first day, and we actually saw steak. And we smelled the meat before going into the DFAC. And we couldn't believe that was ours. Like, that was actually for us. And they told us before we even went in, and they said, look, you're about to get a plate. If you get hungry, go back again. And we just kept going. And I can tell you that you couldn't hear anything but people eating in that day. And we started our training, and we were training about PT twice a day, going to the range every other day. This was actually a proper basic training. There was no military in Iraq. There was actually ICDC, which is Iraqi Civil Defense Corps, mostly locals from the areas they live in. Yeah. We were kind of like the first division that was brought from all over Iraq. You had Kurds, Yazidis, Muslims, Sunni Shia, people from all over the planet in one platoon. And they melted you all in one pot, and you started training together. And we spent the 3 months, and the division had about 3 brigades at the time. And after our training, the first Fallujah battle started. So they sent the first division as the first Iraqi military personnel to put their foot in the ground in the first Fallujah battle. And then they pulled a battalion from Al-Anbar province, where we're fighting in Fallujah, and they sent us to Baghdad. And in Baghdad, there was the Iraqi recruiting center where we actually got recruited, where the car bombs used to go off. Yeah. And they said, your job is to defend the recruiting center and to face the enemy that's actually attacking the recruiting center. And the area that actually attacked the recruiting center every single day in Baghdad is called Haifa Street. And Haifa Street was about a 2-mile road, starts with an inner circle, and it was actually the most dangerous 2 miles in the world at that point. And that road was called actually the Purple Heart Valley, is because how many American soldiers were actually rewarded the Purple Heart in that area specifically. More soldiers than anybody. And when we got there, we saw the 500-meter wide recruiting center. We got there, and all we remember when we first got there, we see RPG holes on the wall. It was actually rocket propelled grenades holes on the wall. Every single day, you'll have a car bomb or a suicide bomber attack around 7 o'clock, between 7 o'clock and 7:30 in the morning. And the reason why is because that's when the new recruits start lining up in the line to get into the MEP station. So 7 to 7:30 in the morning, that is a bomber attack. There's no doubt. And every night around the evenings, which is around like 7:30, 8 o'clock, you'll be attacked at the gate by personnel from Haifa Street. So you actually got no sleep. You were exhausted. And that's before you even patrolled the most dangerous miles in the world, which is Haifa Street. That's just you defending the barracks where you are, where you're sleeping, where you're holding the ground. And our little base was extremely little. We had American base about 2 miles away behind us. We had about 7 to 8 American soldiers and a Bradley parked right behind us in case our line fell by one of these attacks at night, that there was an American soldiers can prevent an attack towards the American base. So they were kind of forward with us, and these guys sat in the Bradley and just kind of set a line right behind us. So we were kind of like the front. They were behind us. And every single day you get attacked in the morning, a car bomb, suicide bomber, every single day. I cannot count for you how many suicide bombers. And the more bombers blow up every single day is the less recruits start showing up at the recruiting stations.
Yeah.
Because the goal was to scare people from joining the Iraqi military, to prevent Iraqis from fighting side by side with Americans. And I will never forget that they decided to go heavy duty, and they brought a cement truck and they filled it with C4.
Oh, God.
And at that point, I have worked night shift, and I went around 6 o'clock in the morning. I went to sleep for a little bit. I mean, my shift at the time as a platoon sergeant would go for almost around 20 hours, 22 hours. I'll get 2 hours sleep and I'm back at the gate. And the barracks is right behind the gate. So I'm literally where I sleep is only meters from where the gate is.
Yeah.
And I was sleeping on a double bed, and I was sleeping in the top level. And the person under me was actually at the gate, holding his position, like in his duty. And when that car bomb blew up, it was a cement truck, and it has, I don't know how many pounds or tons of C4 that thing has. All we knew is they filled it up with what looked like plastic barrels, and all wired all together. When that thing blew up, it felt like you just had a nuclear attack.
Yeah.
I got thrown from the top of the bed to the ground.
Just the vibration. The vibration.
I felt the wall right next to me was gonna fall on me.
It's crazy.
And when it blew up, we've been blowing up before. We have seen car bombs, suicide bombers blow up. You hear it. It shakes the ground a little bit. But that was scary. It shook a whole entire concrete building. And I immediately put my gear and ran out. And at the time, when I got out, I couldn't see. When you got out, it looked like a nuclear bomb just went off. You see a big dark cloud, dust everywhere. You can't really see. And I remember I had a female soldier that was actually right behind the gate. And her job was to search any females coming through to the gate.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing her in the ground without both of her legs. And that was the first scene I saw. She has lost both of her legs. And when I went out, and as soon as I got a vision of what was going on, there was hundreds of people laying on the ground, dead instantly. And you heard a little noise of people that were injured and burnt, and their clothes was not on them anymore. The clothes was half burnt and gone off their bodies. And I can tell you that the soldiers that were at the gate that day doing that shift, not many of them made it. The ones that went out to respond were the ones that were in the barracks with me. And we went out, we saw things that we could never imagine in our own life. You could help someone who's injured, but when someone is burnt and all the joints are in different places and you just didn't know how to conduct a medical treatment to somebody, we try to save a few people, but the amount of people that were dead, it was horrific. There was a traffic outside, a lot of cars, a lot of people passing by, families, a lot of line of recruits, my soldiers. And I will never forget that attack. And that day, the scariest thing, after you have carried all the dead bodies, you carried all the injured, the smell that remained in the ground on that road that will hunt you down to the rest of your life. That day you really smelled the smell of war. And it's not pretty. It's awful.